What's up, Team Esquire?
Hey y'all!
We are back with a new segment. Our nameless segment.
It's nameless. It's called Law Facts.
Oh, is it Law Facts?
I think so. Oh.
Okay.
Another side? I thought it was called Law Facts.
Okay. Let us know if y'all like that name.
Let us know if you like Law Facts.
So Law Facts will basically be a segment that we give, very short is the goal, and we kind of want to explain to people what some of these laws mean.
Exactly. I feel like a lot of times we hear buzzwords on TV and movies and things like that, but one, those TV shows and movies are fake, and two, there's just like a lot of misinformation about rights and things like that. So we want to give little short videos that can be useful and practical to your everyday life that you might not know.
Exactly. So, law fact number 1, and the topic is Miranda rights.
Miranda rights.
Apparently, Your Honor, our officers forgot to Mirandize her.
I was waiting for Miranda to come in there and nobody came in there. I was waiting for her. That's right, ain't nobody Miranda me. Miranda wasn't even in the room.
You got the right to. Give me time. You got the right to.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you do or say can be used, what's the next word? As a flotation device. As a flotation device.
I know y'all have heard this on TV or something. Y'all know y'all heard of Miranda rights.
Exactly. Even if they haven't heard the word Miranda rights, they definitely have heard of the concept somehow.
So Miranda rights basically are what the police officer gives you or is supposed to give you when you are in custody and being interrogated. So custody can be arrest, or you just feel like you can't leave, you feel like you're confined, and the officer or the state.
Is it a government official? Is it
maybe someone acting on behalf of the government. So basically, if you feel like the government agent wouldn't allow you to leave, you're in custody, and it's based on that standard. You as the detainee or arrestee, if it's reasonable that I wouldn't think I can go, I'm locked in this room, there's no windows, the door is locked, you're in custody. And if you're being interrogated, so if the police officer is questioning you while you're in custody, both of those things together, at that point you have Miranda rights, and you need to be given your rights before they can use any of that information against you.
Exactly. It's the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to an attorney, and if you can't afford one will be appointed to you. Is that all of them?
I think that's all of them.
Okay, that's all of them.
So another thing to keep in mind is if you only have one of those 2 prongs, just custody or just interrogation, it doesn't count. So if you're just in custody, you're in this room and there's no windows and the door is locked, but you just start volunteering information, no one's asking you any questions, you're just like, hey, I did it, hey, I smoked, or whatever, it doesn't count. Like it has to be a product of questions from the government agent. So keep that in mind. You don't need to be open up your mouth for no reason.
But keep in mind that you also can waive your Miranda rights.
Right.
And if they say you have the right to remain silent, they give you your Miranda, and you're like, well, cool, I don't want to remain silent. This is what happened, X, Y, and Z. That's going to be considered. And if you want to invoke certain Miranda rights, it has to be unambiguous. For example, with the right to counsel, you have to unambiguously say, I want to speak to a lawyer. I'll give you a scenario as an example. If you're being questioned, and let's say the officer or other form of government agent says, did you do this? And you're like, I think it's time for me to speak to a lawyer. But after that, you start chatting, it's not gonna count. Like you have to unambiguously say, I want a lawyer, period. And at that point, the government agent has to cease all questioning against you.
Exactly, so make sure you say it explicitly. They're not gonna imply that you want your lawyer, so.
Yeah, I feel like they'll probably do the opposite, to be honest.
They also can't just presume anything from your silence, right?
Exactly. Back to what I was saying about waivers, in order for it to be valid, the government, government agent, the word you're using, has to make clear that the person knew exactly what they were doing, right? The voluntary waiver has to be, what's the standard? Knowingly and willingly?
I think so.
I want to say it's knowingly and willingly. And because of that, if you remain silent, that's not going to be a presumption of a waiver in any way.
Yeah.
When someone does invoke their right to counsel specifically, there is an exception. I don't know if you'd call it an exception, but after 14 days of being released, they can question you again, and you would have to invoke your right to counsel again.
And for the right to remain silent, I remember this one, it was just like after a reasonable time.
They can question you again?
Yeah, but I can't remember like maybe I shouldn't say that, I can't remember the exact time. But there's, you should look into that, because there is something there for
like little nuances.
Right, there's so much to it. This is a short video, and like, we're giving you the basics, but there is a lot of nuance to it. Unfortunately, with the law, there's always like these little loopholes and ambiguities. But that's, I think what we're saying is the basis, like it's the basis.
Exactly, and that's how they get to even slide certain evidence into court without it being presumed as evidence.
All of these things just, basically the prosecution, if they decide, if the case comes from this and the prosecution wants to, or the prosecution has to prove its case in court, they have the burden of proof, they have to prove that you did X, Y, Z. When they're making that case, they can't use any of the information they got from all the statements you made if they didn't give you a valid Miranda rights statement, and if you didn't waive your rights. So that's what you really should know. This is so important, because when they are trying to make that case against you, if they try to make their case, they can't use any of this information. So it's very, very helpful if you know to be quiet, or if you know, hey, they didn't say X, Y, Z, so I didn't know this is gonna be used against me. Got it? Got it.
But it can be used against you to impeach in certain cases.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Yeah, and impeach is a whole nother concept where they're trying to like...
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Too much. Lawyer facts, short and sweet.
Right.
So I hope you all enjoyed our first segment of Lawyer Facts.
I enjoyed it.
I did.
I hope y'all did too.
I hope you learned a lot.
Yeah.
All right. High five to Miranda.
Woo!